Hello everyone and welcome back to Versus, the show that takes movies, TV, art, and sometimes whole universes and makes them clash for our amusement. It's all in good fun, of course. We're really just here to celebrate the pinnacle of craft, achievement, and progress, so why not, make it a little competitive.
She wasn't ready for a match tonight.
I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and today we'll be wrestling with a couple of accomplished acting A-listers, both of whom have had to do some on-screen tussling in roles like international assassins, curious teens, and even as two of the March sisters in Little Women. I gave it away, right? I mean, the title of the vid did too. It's Florence Pugh taking on Saoirse Ronan right now on Versus. In one corner, we have Pugh, whose career in acting got jump-started with roles in The Falling and Lady Macbeth before being catapulted into the stratosphere, courtesy of Midsommar, Black Widow, and Little Women. In the other corner, it's Ronan, who I first saw as a trained killer in training in Hanna, and then she went on to star in acclaimed projects like Brooklyn, Lady Bird, and what's the last one with the Little Women? That's right. As I desperately try to evade Uncle joking that these Little Women have forged big careers in Tinseltown.
Don't say that.
Just go to the graphic. Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, iconic characters. Round 4, memorable moments. And then we'll do a wild card round that could involve anything from who can backsass the relatives better to who might win in a skills competition based around beating up a host of baddies. If you think Black Widow's sister would take that one, again, y'all gotta see Hanna. But then again, Florence Pugh did many of her own stunts in Fighting with My Family, so it's gonna be a good one. Sit back, relax, or lean forward, buckle up, hop on the elliptical, whatever it takes for you to prepare for an exhaustive look back on two stellar careers that will continue to soar into the stratosphere for decades to come. It's Florence Pugh and Saoirse Ronan right here, right now. Not physically, they're not going to be here. They're in high demand and they're probably somewhere else and very busy. I'll be here the whole time. Let's get it on. Round 1, box office. One of the most refreshing aspects of this matchup that we're going to be witnessing here is that historically, this round is won by who's been in the most action, comedy, comic book movie-like flicks, the ones that first come to mind when one references metaphorical blockbusting. But here, we have two stars who've made multiple hits without all of those perceived advantages. So if you thought Florence Pugh, Flo Pugh? Did that fly? Can I do that?
Don't say that.
Was easily going to take this round because of her scene-stealing turn as Yelena in Black Widow. To quote Judas Priest, you got another thing coming. But also Black Widow is an MCU film, and those tend to make money, as in $379 million worldwide, a total that was no doubt undermined by a pandemic that's still very good though. As is the take of smaller flicks like Fighting with My Family at $41 million and the harrowing Midsommar at $46 million. Also on her resume is The Commuter, which would end up hauling in $119 million. She's also released a few bigger flicks on the small screen with streamers like The Outlaw King Lear, which I'm now being told are two separate movies. Obviously there's no box office data for either one of those, but here's some good news for really both ladies. They're starting out with $218 million in seed money, courtesy of Little Women. They may be little, but they make a big impact. Oh God, I did it again. I'm so sorry, but $200 million, that's impressive. Saoirse Ronan takes that dough and combines it with her first big screen role in Atonement, which would go on to gross $129 million. From there, we generate more coin with flicks like The Lovely Bones at $94 million, The Host at $64 million, and Hanna with 65 million reasons to train your daughter where all the human body pressure points are.
I don't want to hurt anyone anymore.
In more recent years, Ronan has had Oscar bait like Lady Bird transcend the art houses and become a force of the multiplex to the tune of $78 million, and Mary Queen of Scots averaged an additional $47 million. Little Women still stands as her highest grossing flick, but in second place is a strong showing for Wes Anderson with the Grand Budapest Hotel's $163 million haul. See, I told y'all, it doesn't matter what type of project these two are cast in or which section of Blockbuster Video their films end up qualifying for. Ronan and Pugh are bona fide stars who've proven that they can be box office draws.
Money is the end and aim of my mercenary existence.
Pugh has the edge when it comes to highest grossing single movie. Will that be enough to push her over the top in our opening phase? Well, her box office total is $811 million, which averages out to a strong 135 million bones per movie. Meanwhile, Ronan's average is $84 million per flick, but her overall box office take is over $1 billion. That's blissful news to my ears because now either way, I can't go wrong. The glass is half full. which also means the glass is half empty, so I'll make the wrong decision regardless of... You know what? I'm staying positive here. Florence Pugh is already within striking distance of Saoirse Ronan's career totals, and her average is already better. And for anyone who just says that's because of Black Widow, I'd say, well, yeah, it helped tremendously, and for my movie-going dollar, she was the best part of that flick, and might have been the biggest reason for repeat business.
You really do believe that?
Florence Pugh takes the round from 0. Nah, it's not gonna work. And she goes up 1-0.
Thank you so much.
Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Ooh, this is gonna be a tough one to eyeball and predict because both ladies have already forged careers that include Oscar nominations, and those films, they tend to do well on the old Tomatometer, and audiences love a good crowd pleaser, so high marks are expected from Pugh and Ronan. Let's start with the veggies, shall we? Today, the clamato is strong with Ronan and Pugh because they're both in that Little Women movie. That Tomatometer is anything but tiny. It's the last one, I promise. The movie's at 95%. So now the question is this: can either performer top that gaudy numeral? Ronan can. She's got a 99% for Lady Bird, which by my math is very, very good. Brooklyn also exceeds the small ladies with a 97%. Pugh's best is tied with the diminutive girls. I'm having way too much fun with Little Women at 95%, but she gets close with both Fighting With My Family and the Little Drummer Girl's 93%, plus King Lear's 91%. I'm also gonna toss some points her way for Hawkeye, a show that really picked up once Yelena checks in, and that's at 92%. Even more so than the 90s that Florence can brag about, I'm astounded that she has exactly one rotten score so far in her illustrious career. It's shared by 2 films, Malevolent and The Commuter, which are fresh adjacent at 55%. And may I also remind you that The Commuter stars Liam Neeson in like his 38th reimagining of Taken, and it's still almost fresh. Thank you, Florence.
Scumbag.
Ronan continues her fresh run with Atonement at 83%, The Grand Budapest Hotel at 92%, and Loving Vincent at 84%. Some of her lesser-seen fare is penalizing, however, as Lost River is at 30%, Violet and Daisy is 22%, and Stockholm, Pennsylvania is 27%, which is merely a commentary on the movie, not the town itself. If they have an Applebee's, they're fresh in my book. The lowest rated flick for either star's Tomatometer is The Host for Ronan. Despite making a little bit of cash, the film failed to launch a YA franchise, petering out with just a 10%. Now, I will note that it did better on the audience side of things, notching a 49%. That places it better than The Commuter, where moviegoers saw just enough to get it to 40%. Overall, Little Women once again reigns supreme on Florence Pugh's audience score, hovering at 92%. Black Widow's right there at 91%, improving upon its 79% Tomatometer number. For funsies, Hawkeye is also at 91%. Shockingly, the only film that Ronan has in the audience score 90s is Little Women. From there, her next best effort is 87% for Brooklyn, 86% for Loving Vincent, and there's the Grand Budapest Hotel, followed by 85% for Ammonite. Which begs the question, where the hell is Hanna?
Come and find me.
It's fresh, which is good, but not enough to cause a seismic shift in the numbers. 71% on the Tomatometer, 66% with audiences. And unfortunately for Ronan, it appears that too many of her flicks have hit the fresh middle ground that could end up hurting her overall average. Byzantium is 65%, Mary Queen of Scots is 62%, and The Way Back is 74%, and now I get to point out that no, she was not playing an alcoholic high school basketball coach. It's 2 different movies with the same name, not to be confused with the summertime water park dramedy, The Way, Way Back. And now we come to a fun fact. Both The Way, Way Back and the Ben Affleck The Way Back are tied at 84% on the Tomatometer. That is a stat worth derailing this train for. And don't worry, Liam Neeson's a passenger, so we'll get back up and running soon.
You want to live? You stop this train now.
Despite her rousing success in front of the camera and myriad critical accomplishments, somehow Ronan is only carrying a 60% average on the Tomatometer and a 59% average with the audience score. You know, a sequel to Hanna could really tip that into fresh territory. I'm just saying.
You can laugh if you want to. It's funny, I know.
The door is now open for Pugh, and predictably, she kicks it down. Her audience score averages a fresh 66%, and the Tomatometer hits even harder at 80%, and just like that, Pugh wins the round and goes up 2-0, and now Ronan needs to respond.
I don't want your opinion because I don't like you very much. So just don't talk to me anymore. Thank you.
Round 3, iconic characters. And Saoirse has a chance here because unlike those past two stages, here we don't care about middling box office or divisive reactions. We're just looking at the best of the best, starring TV's Eric Roberts, when it comes to who you played and what emotions you conjured out of us. And with Ronan's first feature film being Atonement, she's off to a hot start. Even brand new schmo Mark Ellis really dug this movie Once Upon a Time, and in particular, the precocious turn from Ronan. She's a bit of a bratty child to say the least, but also in her own world and misunderstood, and going through a bunch of crap from all the adults surrounding her. It was certainly a sign of things to come. Okay, can we get to Hanna yet? No. Okay, I'll note that her role as Susie Salmon in The Lovely Bones was also welcome, and she forged a bond with fellow only child Peter Jackson, who directed her in that film. And it also couldn't quite kick off a franchise. In between that 2009 movie and 2013's The Host was Hanna. Yeah. Did you guys see it? Eric Bana is some sort of assassin living off the grid, and he trains his daughter, luckily named Hanna, to follow in his footsteps in case those skills may suddenly become necessary in her life. She's such an ass kicker in a serious adult kind of way. Like Kevin McAllister is adorable in the Home Alone movies, but Hanna, she ain't no wet bandit. She'll take you out quick and clean and hard, just like the bees in My Girl. What, is it still too soon?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mac. Florence Pugh got her career moving with the part of Abby in The Falling, and then it was playing Elizabeth de Burgh and the Outlaw King that got her more run and notice with viewers, and then Fighting with My Family happened. Director Stephen Merchant cast her with the warning that he'd love for her to do as much of the wrestling moves as possible, so she dove right in, working closely with a personal trainer that she still retains to this day, and the results speak for themselves. Hell, they don't speak, they shout to the back row from the ropes. As wrestling idol Paige, that's a tough part to pull off because wrestling fans are at the very least passionate about their faves, and for Pugh to nail this role speaks volumes about her abilities and drive. Now go see her in Midsommar and tell me this woman won't go to any length or climb any mountain for us audiences. It is not an easy watch or rewatch, and an earthquake really did happen in the theater I was in during the old folks' ceremony in the middle of the movie. But man, Jack and Florence really pushed themselves in their roles as outsiders visiting a weird summer ritual, and it does have a lasting impact. Similarly, Ronan had to go to new places in terms of emotionally and physical locations in Brooklyn, where her character, happily named Ellis, welcome to the club, kid. Our weekly family dinners are at Applebee's. E-Money made the bold trek from her home stomping grounds of Ireland to Brooklyn, one of New York's finest boroughs, and wouldn't you know it, she falls in love. You kids, such dreamers. He's an Italian plumber who found the princess without the help of mushrooms, but she returns back home for a visit, and now Donald Gleason is in the picture. It's a multi-continent love triangle that features more drama than the basketball team in Brooklyn.
How is this relevant?
And it resulted in a well-earned Oscar nomination for Ronan, her second up to that point. Oscar nod number 3 came courtesy of Lady Bird, a riveting dramedy, there's that word again, that sees Ronan looking for some excitement beyond her current existence. It's her senior year, so she's doing her best to navigate life, featuring her mom, played by Laurie Metcalf, and love, including some fella named Timothée Chalamet, who would also show up in Hit Those Drums, Little Women.
Hello there!
Yep, he's there and is brilliant in the role. As for Willy Wonka, alright, I'll give it a shot and see. Florence Pugh and Ronan are transcendent. Ronan is Jo, one of the older sisters, and I hear a pretty good author, and Pugh is the feisty Amy, who one time might have torched some of Jo's writings because she was mad. Ronan earned a Best Lead Actress nomination, and Pugh got the nod for Best Supporting Actress. Though neither won that night, I expect both to be a force at these fancy balls for quite some time.
Thank you.
Florence Pugh gets major propers from me for being such a standout, even in a world as inundated with ass kickers as the MCU is. Her Yelena is fierce, funny, and packs a ton of emotion into every scene. But over the span of her entire career, Saoirse Ronan has had more of a breadth and depth in terms of body of work that proves she can do it all on the big screen. There's no losers in this round, but for me, the most winniest is Ronan, who takes the stage and gets on the board, cutting Pugh's lead to 2-1.
I need some help up here!
Round 4, memorable moments. Alright, so Ronan's made it a ball game, and her incredible work dating all the way back to Atonement is the reason why. But since Florence Pugh's been on the scene, she's proven herself to not only be a wonderful thespian, but also a purveyor of memorable sequences and iconic moments. can Ronan keep up? As the kids say, OMG, I just realized we get a Yelena Belova versus Hanna matchup inside an already compelling episode of Versus. Competition. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
How about I shove her head up your ass and we can find out?
Before we get there, remember how great acclaimed Pugh was as real-life wrestler Paige? Now consider this. Due to scheduling issues, the production was forced to film some of the arena combat scenes on Pugh's third day of filming. Imagine 20,000 screaming fans lining up to see if you can convince us that you're one of the most popular wrestlers of your era. And she did so with no perceived fear or hesitation. That's good stuff. We also see Ronan's potential early in Atonement. Here's a friendly reminder, she's only in the first act of the movie, but as a young Bryony, who accuses her older sister's beau of a heinous act, the ripple effect is felt throughout the runtime, and it's a credit to Ronan's ability. She also paired perfectly with Margot Robbie for Mary, Queen of Scots, and in The Lovely Bones, the She's Gone scene is the kind of acting that gets you on the Academy's radar. Of course, she was already there, having been once nominated already. Pugh wins favor with us and Chris Pine in The Outlaw King, and moments like the power speech she delivers in the I Choose You segment stand out as why. That's not to be confused with Lisa Simpson's Valentine's Day card to Ralph Wiggum, which said, I choose you. She was just doing it to be nice. Florence Pugh's motivation was far more meaningful. Sorry, Ralph.
You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half.
In Little Women, both obviously have their moments. I love the I burned your book part, and Pugh clearly embraced the bratty role of Amy, stating that she never disliked her, rather she enjoyed playing a character that always spoke her mind. Ronan and director Greta Gerwig, who had already teamed up for Lady Bird, once again made a great pair. In fact, legend has it that Ronan went up to her pal Greta at an award show and let her know that the only role she wanted to play was Joe. And when you see the dance between her and Laurie, you'll understand why. Oh yeah, and Lady Bird is just fantastic. For the laughs, you can't go wrong with the "there is no tempest" scene outside of school. You also get the car jumping sequence, and then the film wraps up with an ending that may have been sappy in lesser hands, but with Ronan and Gerwig, in her directorial debut no less, a simple phone call expressing love to mom and tolerance for Sacramento is the perfect send-off. This round is going to be tough.
Yep.
Movies like Midsommar and Byzantium brought these experts to scary new worlds full of weird cultists and vampires, but let's take a look back at that Hanna Black Widow matchup. The movie's called Black Widow, and Natasha and Yelena and their family have some wonderful moments together. I love the comedy of Yelena mocking an entire generation of characters who have to show the flair when they jump and land, and the family reunion, complete with dad squeezing back into a superhero costume, rivals The Clumps as far as dinner comedy sequences go.
It still fits.
For Hanna, the prison escape may be your go-to, and it's worthy of that crown, but I also love her running, leaping, and evading to the Chemical Brothers musical accompaniment. That fight in the container park is right up there with Batman Begins, and that sounds like a great list for our expert researcher Mark Hoffmeyer to put together. The best container park battles. What do you got? Maybe The Losers, Usual Suspects? Hanna is definitely in the top 5. And again, in the same way that Ronan's extended filmography might have hampered her chances in the early rounds, it's flexing its muscle with more roles from which to pull memorable moments from. If you need one more example, I go back to Brooklyn. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, sorry, that's a whole other thing.
Very well done.
If you haven't seen the movie Brooklyn yet, prepare to be awed, and that final scene takes place on a boat, and when a young Irish woman is excited about going to America, Ronan replies to her with, "It's a big place," and that one sentence fragment speaks volumes. An intense pep talk ensues, and all of her emotions and emotional restraint are storefront at the same time. Storefront means they're prominently displayed. Everybody with me so far? Ronan takes this round, ties it at 2-2, and I also like the movie Crooklyn. And now we move on.
You're on fire.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the wild card round, Cultural Impact. This will be the round that I most want a do-over once I'm in my retirement home, the planet having already been overtaken by apes or dinosaurs, Skynet. As long as the robots keep my oxygen plugged in, I'll be thinking about, is this too early in Ronan and Pugh's career to prognosticate the impact they're going to have? Well, don't worry, I hired a psychic to join me. But they couldn't find parking, which is weird because, you know, you're psychic, so I'll have to rely on the outstanding award show prowess that has already welcomed these two young stars. Again, Ronan has the upper hand from a longevity standpoint, but Pugh has already proven herself alongside worthy veterans, like her competition today in Little Women. Remember, both were nominated for that movie, but it was the first one for Florence and the fourth for Saoirse Ronan, and I pray that when she finally does win, it's not John Travolta saying her name because that's not going to go well at all. It's pronounced Saoirse, it's spelled like Saoirse, so he'll probably say something like Slurpee. But hey, that guy can dance. For Saoirse to have such a pedigree and resume already is truly remarkable, especially when you consider that she never had formal training as an actor. As intimated earlier, her lack of siblings gave her a lot of free time all to herself, and that overactive imagination went to work. So once she started acting, it kind of felt like second nature. For Pugh, at the ripe old age of 6, she landed the role of Mary in a local nativity play. She gave the Holy Virgin a Yorkshire accent, which made the audience giggle, and she felt the thrill in having captivated a crowd. On the last day submissions were accepted, she tossed in a tape to audition for The Falling while at school at Oxford, and lo and behold, she landed the part. Amongst Pugh's many to-be projects are the sequel to Dune, the next Christopher Nolan film Oppenheimer, and more immediately, Don't Worry Darling. Meanwhile, next up for Ronan is See How They Run, a comedy thriller set in 1950s London that acts as a whodunit with lots of comic relief. So it's a thrility? Yeah, I think I just invented that. But that's all in the future. For the here and now, both talents have earned their way into our hearts and into the elite world of Hollywood A-lister. But for all of her incredible performances in a wide variety of projects, I'm leaning towards Saoirse Ronan, if only because she's the second youngest 4-time Oscar-nominated actress ever, besides movie trivia time. Think about it. She trips at a lot of award shows, yet she's somehow great with a bow and arrow.
I volunteer as tribute.
Jennifer Lawrence. She can play the winner of today's match, which is Miss Ronan. She takes the round and thus wins this edition of Versus. Yet I can't escape this vid without gushing a little more about Florence Pugh. She can do it all. Comedy, action, drama, horror. I mentioned some of her upcoming movies, but I saved the best one for last. She's entering the world of animation in the sequel to Puss in Boots. Yes, he's back. He's got his tiny little sword and the little hat and the booties. All right, compose yourself, Mark. It's almost over. Florence will be playing the role of Goldilocks, whose 3 bears are searching for the one they call Puss. Who's so cute. I'm Mark Ellis, reminding you that the Tempest is not real. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Versus. Hit me up on social media at Mark Ellis Live and keep it right here at Rotten Tomatoes for all the latest in the world of TV, movies, and everything in between. Have a great day and be good to your mom, too.